Good afternoon, or I guess that should be good morning to most of the country. I want to welcome you to the second day of the first ever National R3 Forum. Rather than have this forum today, we would much prefer to have a symposium. But because of the coronavirus and the situation that we're now faced with across this country, we felt it was best to move forward and have this R3 Forum. And the first thing I want to do is I want to thank our staff for the work that they've put into this over the last 3 months. Samantha Petter, Kristen Black, and Sawyer Connolly. A tremendous amount of work has gone into making arrangements to have this forum with all the speakers we have, and just the coordination behind this has actually been mind-boggling. But our staff and the council board of directors are delighted with the attendance that we've had yesterday and today. We had over 425 registered for that. That's pretty big, and I think it shows that the R3 community and the professionals associated with R3 are still engaged, and we're very focused on the R3 across this country. And I hope you enjoyed the presentations that we had yesterday as much as I did. J.D. Strong started off the program. He gave an excellent quick overview and a little bit of background on the R3. Then we had a distinguished panel come on board with Joe Bartosi, Becky Humphreys, Mike Folks, and Liz Ogilvie to talk a little bit about the coronavirus and what the impact it has had on conservation, on R3, and what the future may bring as it relates to the R3 community. Then we learned a lot about the upcoming multi-state conservation grants that have recently been awarded. We know that the PR modernization is bringing forth $5 million a year for R3 type projects, programs, and research. We believe that's going to move the R3 needle even further into the future. So we're very happy with that. We were also delighted yesterday with the presentation that John Keeney gave. He is the Director of Business Development for NBC Universal. That was really a very enlightening program. And it was obvious at the happy hour yesterday afternoon, he continued to engage with the R3 professionals on that. And, we were just absolutely delighted that he was willing to do that. And looking ahead to the day, we're going to hear a little bit about the National R3 Implementation Work Group, a little bit about this history and what it is all about. You'll hear some of the presentations that relate to partnerships, marketing, mentoring, the digital and organizational culture, and particularly the Clearinghouse. And that is something we are extremely excited about. We've been working on this really for almost 3 years. It will be a site where all the content for R3 across this country can go into one place. It will be accessible, it'll be searchable, and we're very anxious to get that up online. But you'll be hearing about that. You'll be hearing about the next steps in mentoring with Matt Dunphy and Rob Southwick. Then we're going to get into retention, a little bit about that and how it impacts related to the retaining of community. And then there'll be a number of presentations on technological advancement. So once again, I want to welcome you on behalf of our staff and the board of directors of the council to day 2. I hope you will gain as much from this as I think we all did yesterday. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, I guess, Samantha to get into the first program that we have relative to the implementation work group. So again, thank you for your attendance, and we look forward to another excellent day and a very educational day as it relates to R3. Samantha.
Thank you, John. We appreciate your comments. You give a great preview of what we're about to tackle, and I'm looking forward for the presentation. Momentarily, I'm going to bring up a slideshow presentation, and this will cover the next hour. We have a slew of panelists that have been working with the National R3 Implementation Work Group, and you'll be hearing from the chairs of the sub-work group committees. We have some exciting products to feature and lots of updates to provide. So give us a moment while we bring up that slideshow. All right. And here we go. So today we're going to share with you about the work of the National R3 Implementation Work Group. This is an exciting opportunity and we're glad to be here. Can't see it. The good part about staff and about events like this is that we have a chance to text each other and let each other know that we're not doing well.
You got it, Samantha.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Okay. So we are excited to be here today. Thank you for the technical help. We are here to offer a sneak peek of the progress made by many of our peers through the National R3 Implementation Work Group. This group has been working for the last 2 years to create some awesome resources that will increase the effectiveness of R3 efforts. Before we dive in, though, we wanted to give you a brief history of where this group's come from, so that you can understand that the work of this group is so important and how we arrived at the decision to pick some of the key projects that we've invested so much time into. So a couple slides to share and give you some background. So for perspective-wise, our timeline when we look back truly begins in 2013. That's when the first group convened by the Council of Advanced Hunting and Shooting Sports and the Wildlife Management Institute started to begin work on the National Hunting and Shooting Sports Action Plan. That plan was released in 2016, and from that release stemmed many opportunities to grow the National R3 initiative to where it is today. Many of our colleagues have used this plan as a starting point to hire an R3 coordinator in their state, to rate their state level action plan for hunting, shooting, angling, and boating. And it's also led to the development of the National R3 community and many other tactics and projects. Because of this plan, a momentum was started. Over the 2 years, we spent time traveling the country, council staff, as well as with Wildlife Management Institute, to increase awareness of the plan and of the tactics related to the recruit, retain, and reactivate hunters, target shooters, anglers, and boaters. R3 began to take on the definition as we know it today. In 2018, we convened for the first ever National R3 Symposium. Many of you were with us in Lincoln, Nebraska, where we gathered, discussed, hosted the first ever regional committee meetings all at one time, and launched more momentum to continue to build on what the national plan had started. During this time, it was also when the Council Board of Directors asked our staff to initiate an effort to increase implementation of the Hunting and Shooting Sports Action Plan. We recognized that it wasn't time to write a new plan just yet, but that there could be more done with the plan we had already laid out. So in late 2018, we brought together a group of individuals and we started to do some hard thinking. We looked and said, amongst the landscape of all the R3 efforts occurring, what are the common themes? And then what is stopping us from furthering implementation of strategic regional and national R3 efforts? So before you can see the approach we've taken, as always, of joining together, bringing our ideas and building consensus, trying to discuss and understand from multiple different perspectives what's holding us back. This led to the release of a national document in 2019, which basically laid out 10 key areas. We call them R3 implementation priorities. And within those documents, which are basically Excel spreadsheets with all the problems laid out and then classified at the state, regional, and national level, and offer a perspective also of what type of partner organization might tackle that issue. There's over 100 needs and actions identified. And we realized that the work that we identified was huge. It would take more than just the 35 R3 professionals we gathered to try to tackle that. So we made a decision as a group, though, to try to start. We know we needed to move forward, and we gathered and discussed those opportunities. And we surveyed our colleagues within the community to get an idea of where their interests were. And then we selected 5 key areas. Through that time, we started working. We met as a group, developed a work plan for each sub-work group, and laid out the top solutions that we could make together by just joining our efforts and dedicating some time to one project. With all of these issues identified, the 100 and the R3 implementation priorities, we realized that this is the most we could do without increased capacity. So if you think about it, we broke into 5 work groups: partnerships, marketing, mentoring, data and organizational culture, and clearinghouse, and began to invest our time to create these solutions. Right around the same time, in late December 2019, the Pittman-Robertson Modernization Act passed. And with that, as John mentioned in his opening remarks, brought $5 million annually to work on strategic, regional, and national R3 projects. That is the additional capacity we needed to begin tackling larger projects to truly move forward R3 efforts. So in combination with the dedication of more than 30 of these members outlined here, you can see that they come from all aspects of the R3 community in all levels. We have state fish and wildlife agencies represented, including leadership as well as on-the-ground R3 coordinators. We have nonprofit organizations. We have industry partners. And then we also have angling and boating partners represented too. So you can see that by bringing together this collection of R3 experts and their experience, we've been able to create solutions that we really think will help to move forward and get us started on tackling that list of needs and objectives laid out in the R3 implementation priority documents. This has taken a lot of work, and we couldn't have done it without the leadership of some of our peers. So within the sub-work groups, each had a leader. Partnerships had Scott Lavin, marketing had Jennifer Wisniewski, mentoring had Jeff Rawlinson, data and organizational culture was led by myself, and then Clearinghouse was led by Megan Weisskopf. We owe an extreme gratitude to both the members of the IWG, who have dedicated more than 1,000 hours each working to these products, as well as the leadership of our peers, because without that, we wouldn't have gotten to where we got today. And this is a brief snapshot to just connect you to why this work that we're sharing, why we took an hour on this agenda just to share and give you highlights of where we've come from and what we're going to be releasing soon. It is through collective, strategic, consensus-driven actions like this that we can truly move forward within the national movement. And we're excited to give you a preview of what's to come. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Scott Lavin of the Arizona Game and Fish Department to offer a presentation on partnerships and what that subwork group has been working on. And we'll let Megan and Sawyer, or Kristen and Sawyer, bring that up.
Welcome, Scott. Samantha is going to be running your presentation. So when you're ready for a new slide, just
okay, fantastic. Well, good morning, everyone. At least it's still morning in Arizona, and those of you who know me will not be surprised. I'm going to ad lib here real quick. I just, I think it's worth noting, Samantha really outlined, and it is just a very brief preview, the 2-year journey we've had, thousands of hours, and I just, at being a team leader for this, I want to thank the council staff, and I'm not just, this isn't theater. I feel very sincere about this. They have provided good guidance without telling us where to go, technological resources. They've recorded every of many, many, many meetings for us to refer back to dozens and dozens of times. Just world-class facilitation that has made this 2-year journey so exciting and such a pleasure for another duty as assigned. So thanks to the council team, that it's really been cool. And I think we've got some really great products for you. And with that, I'll slip into my next slide, Samantha. So the partnership team, really realized that to achieve the scale necessary to affect the number of people necessary to go through the adoption sequence, there's no one organization that can do it, right? None of us have unlimited staff, unlimited reach, and the capacity to provide 12 months a year events to educate, empower, and mentor new participants on their journey. So, and there wasn't a lot of examples. So we had a really good team. I just want to, identify everybody. Aaron Mize from Fish and Wildlife Service, Charles Evans from Georgia Wildlife Federation, Joe Mullins, Congressional Sportsmen's Alliance, Matt Dunphy from Wildlife Management Institute, Chris McCarthy from the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, Megan Wisecup from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and Mary Emmons from USA Archery, and obviously Samantha, Kristen, and Sawyer were on all of our calls as well. We were able to have some really tough conversations and debate this, and we did a lot of research to identify how best to assemble the Orange Army in one state, right? So we talked to everyone from implementation team leaders, R3 professionals, mentors, volunteers, and most importantly, the participants that go through R3 events and what made an R3 event successful for them. So it took us a while to kind of gather enough information and opinions to start really putting together a meaningful document. And Samantha, if you can switch to the next slide, please. So once we got all that input from people who are just doing amazing work, one of the challenges we identified, the average tenure of a state director being, roughly 3 years or less. Well, the average tenure, nationwide of the average R3 professional is about the same, really. And this is a pretty big, long journey to kind of chomp into and execute, assembling all the interested parties of R3 in one state. So we identified some best practices, and we've got a working document that will be posted on the Data Clearinghouse as a resource of what works. What are some challenges with different techniques? Because no two states are going to go down this journey the same way, right? We assembled the guidelines for developing a strategy. How do you engage partners? If you've only been on the job for 3 years or less, you may not have the best relationships to really coerce this type of collaboration. So how do you engage those partners and keep them working together? How do you host the conference? Different states are going to do this different ways. Some are going to do it outside, some are going to do it inside. What's the best location? And let's not even get into what does COVID do to a constituent meeting, right? How do you brand this effort? And how do you survey the participants' experience to make sure that you're providing that quality experience? Samantha, we can go to the next slide, please. So we found 4 states that had enough knowledge on them that had been down the journey enough for us to be able to interview those participants and document some case studies. So in those states were Arizona, California, Georgia, and Iowa. And those states' departments provided us incredible amount of access and a lot of interview time to document this. And you can see we've got a lot of different org structures and charts. Each state case study includes a summary of the state approach. And these are deliberately brief to keep everybody's attention. There will be links in these documents that'll give you the meat, and you can get as granular as you want. But a summary of the state's approach. What are some organizational structures? Not just the structure of the State Wildlife Agency, because not always are these collaborations housed in the State Wildlife Agency, but what is the leadership structure of a successful, functioning statewide R3 collaboration? What is the strategic plan? What are the end goals for that collaboration? How do you manage the leadership? What does a state R3 summit look like? And there are many examples across the country of states doing really high quality level events where they're inviting these partners and breaking down those barriers to build those collaborations. And then we identified what were the benefits and what are the challenges of each state's approach. Each state had their own menu, right? We've got different challenges, different access, different species, different seasonality, and every state had unique challenges and successes based on their approach. So it provides a new professional assuming an R3 role, whether it's an NGO or a state wildlife agency, some models to build off of and make their state's journey unique to them. I think we have one more slide, Samantha. And this is just a brief example, and I didn't pick the Arizona model. Council staff just threw one of the slides up here, but it demonstrates some of the content of this document. So there'll be a main body document that gives you some overall best practices, overall direction, and lessons learned, and then we'll go into the case studies. Again, this will be available in the Clearinghouse. I have a feeling it's probably going to pop up in a great many additional forums, and there'll be links that will probably lead to the full documents for each state's either charters or approaches or best practices and so forth. So just to be respectful of time, that's kind of what the partnership team has been focusing on for the last 2 years. We've also put together some documents for regional and national coordination of our 3 efforts. But by far, we think this document is going to be the most impactful for state R3 professionals across the country. And Kristen, I don't know if we have any questions, or I'm trying to peek at the chat. Looks like there's a lot of chatting going on.
You're good. We'll take questions at the end. So
okay, then. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate your time. Next up is Jennifer Wisniewski from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to talk about the marketing subwork group. Jen, are you ready?
Almost.
And if you're following along in the implementation work group progress, you can refer to the R3 practitioners or professionals guide to the forum. You'll see some great resources there to help you go forward. All right, Jen?
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm joining you again from the McDonald's parking lot in Piedmont, Alabama. At any rate, I got the benefit and the honor of chairing the marketing working group, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And we really dug in and made some really great best practice tools for everybody to use. And I just want to thank everybody that was on my team: Eddie from Virginia, Chris from S3 and was from in Oregon now at S3, Emily with USA Archery, Micah from Oklahoma. And, you know, they really dug in, and we found the best case studies and resources, and just, I mean, it's literally a treasure chest of good content. So if we can go to the next slide. So we are literally here to try to make your R3 lives easier. And so we thought about, okay, in the realm of marketing, what would make our jobs easier? If you knew this before you started XYZ, then how would you have, you know, done it better? Or what would you love to know? And so that's what we did. We identified best practices around sort of these R3 things that are selling licenses. Another area that we wanted to do best practices around with marketing is general awareness of hunting, fishing, and shooting. We wanted to have awareness or marketing best practices with partnerships. You know, Scott did great work on how to develop partnerships, but there's also marketing partnerships that you can do. You can work with brands and retailers, and you know, there's you know, the partnership possibilities are kind of limitless. And then, you know, right now with COVID going on, the #1 document that I hope everybody that's watching this reads, and it's just a couple of pages long with a lot of great suggestions for retaining the people that have started hunting and fishing and first-time buyers this year. I know in Tennessee we had 150,000 people that bought licenses for the first time this year that have never bought a license before. And so, gosh, if we could just retain those people. So we wanted to give you guys some tools, some best practices to just to retain those people. So please use these best practices and start thinking about retention especially, but the other tools are also great. Next slide. So the council and the groups have kind of organized these documents and this content into a website, so it's kind of easier to digest, and you can kind of expand and contract these different boxes for the different areas, so you can, digest them at will. And there's, when I say there's a treasure box full of resources, I'm not kidding. If you go to the next slide, the Clearinghouse, which Megan's going to talk about a lot more coming up, it's really, really cool, and I'm so excited about it. But there's a marketing piece of that where you can see all of these great case studies and examples and infographics, and I mean, it just goes on and on. So yes, all of these things will be shared with you shortly. This is the big reveal of all the IWG's work. And again, I can't say how wonderful it's been to be part of this group. I mean, when I think about the expertise that's in this group and just the knowledge and the people that are practitioners of R3 and the people that are, in the trenches and doing this work every day, this tool that we've made, it is the best thing that could be for any practitioner of R3. I mean, if you spend an hour in this one day a week for the next couple of months, you would be, top-notch R3 knowledge and know all the research that's out there and how to do things the best way possible. So please, please use these resources. And with that, I think that's all. Next, chair group. Oh, yes, and we're here to help you. Sorry, go back one. So if you need anything for marketing for R3, we are a resource for you too. So please ask, and please reach out to any member of the marketing group or me. I'm glad to help you and glad to talk to you through any kind of issue you're having or any idea you have, anything out there that could help you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for your leadership. We're really excited with these resources, and you'll be able to find these in connection with the Clearinghouse, which Megan will give a snapshot over briefly. Next up is Jeff Rawlinson to talk to us about the mentoring support group. Jeff, let us know when you're ready. So as this group started to work together, it includes some great program managers as well as state agency staff to develop a resource that I think we'll be very excited about. I can tell you that there was a meeting at the National North American meeting in March where this group got together and we were laying out how to design this tool. So Jeff, we're excited for you to share on this tool, and we're ready when you are.
All right, appreciate it. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
First, I want to start out by recognizing and thanking people on this committee. A great group of people on this committee, and I was just proud to be a team player here. First and foremost, the council, Kristen and Samantha, you guys have been wonderful, and thank you. You guys have been wonderful in helping to lead this charge. So many things moving forward here. This is one small piece of those, but we've really appreciated that. Of course, Matt Dunphy has been our guidance counselor throughout much of this process. We appreciate that support. On the team here, Tanaya Bethke from South Dakota, Eddie Herndon from Virginia, Joe Mullen, Congressional Sportsman, Marsha Brownlee, National Wildlife Federation, Hank Forrester, Quality Deer Management Association, Mike Christensen, Outdoor Mentors, Pass It On, Trey Curtis, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Josh Gold, Archer Trade Association, and Colby Kerber from Pheasants Forever. So an all-star team, without question. The element we were charged with is developing a tool to help coordinators assess their mentoring programs and developing ways for them to better understand the effectiveness of their programs and correlate the extensive amount of research that's been available to their mentoring programs. And so that was the need we set out to meet here, that we have all this research. We've been so lucky to have people like like Mark Duda, Rob Southwick, DJ Case and Associates, that have provided us with so many ground rules, so many best practices. But it's not been real clear when it comes to nationally, all mentoring programs from the national, state level on down to the smallest mentoring programs that we have in the country, that if those practices are in complete widespread use, and what is the overall benefit of these mentoring programs to the overall R3 effort, and how these can improve if at all possible, and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that we did something that not just learned about what's going on, the state of the state, but also provided a tool that provided the coordinator with immediate feedback at key questions or at key elements of the assessment. So the assessment's really for the coordinator so that they can better understand what's available to help them with their program and how they can improve their program. And so that's what we set out to provide, and that's what this need was, and that's what this tool will do. Next slide. So the evaluation tool will do just what I talked about, but it's really designed to help the coordinator understand the state of the, help all of us to understand the state of the state when it comes to mentoring programs here in the United States, but help the coordinator learn what the efficacy of the program can be, where they may be doing an incredible job, or where they may want to focus more efforts or change efforts in order to meet the objectives that they individually have for their programs, as well as better identify to their administration why they're putting certain efforts into these programs. Where is that founded in the research? And to connect that research to the program coordinators, providing them instant feedback on key elements of the best practices of successful mentoring programs, using research and case studies to support the coordinators in every aspect of their program, from development through implementation and management. What it doesn't do is it does not judge your program. It doesn't tell you if your program is good or bad or anything like that. It only tells you how your program stacks up to key elements of known successful efforts, whether it be research or programs, and things that you may want to look at, or you may have reasons that that's important or not. But that's the limitation of the tool. Next slide. So what we did was, and this slide here is not critically important in terms of reading every word, but what we did was we put together a fairly large matrix, and this is probably a quarter page of a probably 7 or 8 page matrix that the team developed to define mentoring, and then define the most critical elements of mentoring and why those elements are critical, and then to go out and find research and case studies, pair that research and those case studies with those critical elements that this team deemed worthy or necessary for successful mentoring programs, so that the coordinator can more easily answer a question and get that immediate feedback. And if you go to the next slide, I can show you how we really pared this down into a tool. This is where Kristen and Sam really shined here in developing a tool, or finding a tool that would help us create this assessment program, so that we'll ask you a series of questions in this. It takes about 10-15 minutes for a coordinator to go through the program. And at each step of the way, you're going to get immediate feedbacks. For example, one of 20-some questions in the tool: does your program include a pre-event survey? Yes. Excellent. Next slide. It gives you immediate feedback. Then that's great. You know, research shows, or case studies show, that those programs that do a pre-event survey can help you understand expectations of participants and why that's important, to support what you're doing, or to give you an idea of why that might be important and why you might want to look at that. And then it provides the link for you to check out a piece of information that will support what the research is supporting in this question. For example, in this particular element, this gives you a link to a pre-event survey to make sure that you're looking at different questions, getting the basic information available so that you can have the best evaluation of your program moving forward. So I didn't want to go through the tool step by step because it would take longer than I have. But there's a series of questions just like this. And at the end of the tool, then, it will give you a printout of all the answers that you had to your questions and all the links and research that's available to you, the coordinator, so that you can go back and look at that research and improve your programs, better align your program to known successful standards, so that here in the United States, we can put forward the best mentoring efforts that we possibly can moving forward, because these mentoring programs that everybody is managing across the country, obviously they have to work for us at 110% in order for us to make the impacts. And so we're really, really happy to help with this. Any questions?
All right. Thank you, Scott. If there's questions, please type them in the chat and we'll be able to answer them at the end of the session here. We appreciate your time and effort, Scott, or Jeff, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Jeff. Thank you.
It's not a bad comparison. I'll take it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. I apologize there. We're trying to do the text sections here. So up next is actually myself. I led a work group and we continue to lead this work group. It's to tackle data and evaluation and organizational culture. So each of those RIP topics we talked about, there was 10, but we picked 5 sub-work groups. And my sub-work group is tackling both data and eval and organizational culture. And I can tell you that the members of this group, including Mike Hobson from Texas Parks and Wildlife, Kyle Daly from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Minnesota office, Jennifer Wisniewski, who I heard from, Liz Ogilvie from the American Sport Fishing Association, and then Matt Dunphy, as well as Alex Baer from the International Hunter Education Association. Through all of our combined efforts, you'll find that this group is very passionate about organizational culture, as well as data. We're the geeks and we love to talk about how important it is to get R3 built into the culture of an organization so that everyone understands their role and how to connect with it. These individuals are some of the leaders within their own organizations trying to lead that charge forward. They talk to their partners and their colleagues and figure out what can we work on R3 together. So we brought their expertise to talk about that. And one of the first products that we're creating is basically a tool to help build an R3 culture. And we've broken this down into 2 parts. We've essentially said that you have to hire the right person to lead the effort for your organization, and then make sure that all of your organization members, whether that be an NGO, industry, or state or federal fish and wildlife agency, understands their connection to the R3 strategy. So you can read here just some of the thought we have to putting this document together. And it's taken a lot of forms. I can tell you that the partnerships document that Scott Lavin's team is working on has done a really good job of laying out the structure. In a couple of quick sentences in their document, it says the R3 coordinator is very critical to leading that structure forward. So knowing that that group was working on that tool, we've started building another tool that will complement that and really focus in on the position description of an R3 coordinator, and then also trying to help people work through what type of coordinator we want to hire. As our group began to talk, we realized that R3 isn't just one kind of effort. We have marketing strategies, we have programmatic strategies, we have organization or policy strategies to work on. So we really pushed it back to try to make this Venn chart or a flow chart. And it'll help people who work through the different position descriptions and elements they're looking for to find the right person to lead the strategy for their organization. So we'll talk about, is this the first coordinator your organization is hiring? Because that set of responsibilities for the first person tracking that nugget of R3 for an organization is very much different than if the group or organization's been working on R3 for a while. So we work through that, and then we'll talk about, do you have an R3 plan already? If so, implementing versus writing a strategic R3 plan is very different. We'll talk about, what is your R3 strategy? For some of our nonprofit partners, maybe it's engaging their members to support R3 efforts in a different way than, say, a state fish and wildlife agency employee who's putting programs on the ground. We're talking about, too, the department structure and complementing the efforts of Scott's group and figuring out, where is this position going to be housed? What we're learning is that there's some trends across the agencies. Scott's document displays that a little bit, and we're learning that based on the intention of the organization in their R3 strategy, having it housed in a certain spot can be helpful. So then, what is your intention in R3 efforts as an organization? That's kind of the culminating point as well. And these are the questions that you'll be able to answer. We're working on the flow. These are the top of mind ideas we have, because we realize that that R3 coordinator and including R3 in everyone's job descriptions and bringing them all into that larger R3 strategy as an organization. It's going to be very critical. And this tool will help you to process through that. The other side and other product that this group is working on is in complement to the data and evaluation process. Liz Ogilvie, this is one of the reasons she's on here. American Sportfish Association and a number of other partners have worked with Rob Southwick to lead the data dashboard product and develop that tool. What we're realizing is that when we wrote this first RIP on data and evaluation, the data dashboards was a large focus. We wanted everybody to get an idea of their trends happening at the state level and bring it into one place. The good news is that over the last year, the progress and participation of states in this effort has increased. And now we're shifting your focus to create kind of a general statement or a document to help people understand the value of data and really push forward to ensure that people are looking at their trends and working collaboratively. The National Hunting and Shooting Sports Action Plan, released in 2016, if you remember, had Appendix C, I think. It's the Hunter and Angler Scorecard. And it was a template for this document. Now, to further implementation of that, what we'd like to do is start working with partners to compare trends more. So the other product from this group that you'll see in the coming months is a statement of purpose and a statement of intent to help others understand what we're trying to do and to build on this effort. So those are some exciting tools and resources that this group has brought to fruition. I can tell you that when I chat with them and we build these tools, it's very exciting, and it's humbling to work with them because their passion for getting R3 invested in the entire organization is just motivating to work with them. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Megan Wisecup to talk about the fifth and final product of the National R3 Implementations Work Group. Megan, let me know when you're available. And just for your reference, while we're waiting for Megan to get on screen, we are going to do a dry run and let you guys see how the Clearinghouse is working. I can tell you that this is an exciting project, and all of the other projects are going to complement the Clearinghouse and connect back to kind of the central hub of information. So Megan, I see that you're online with us. Please take it away.
Thank you, Samantha. Last but not least, we're going to talk about now the mega platform that's going to house all these great products that you've heard about this morning and future products being developed by the entire R3 community. A lot of resources we know are currently out there on the community, but it's been pretty difficult to navigate to locate those or find those or have a robust search capabilities so that you can find the resources you need. We identified really quickly with the ever-growing and staggering numbers of the community of over 2,700 now, which is awesome, well beyond what we ever dreamed of, that there is a significant need for a much better way to manage and organize all these great assets that folks are working on. I want to quickly go through our team real quick. Jim Cucurotto from the NSSF, John Zennel from Federal Premium and CCI Ammunition, Mandy Harling from the NWTF, Stephanie Hussey from the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, Chris McCarthy from Massachusetts, Brian Clark from Kentucky. And before I dive in, I want to give a shout out to all the work that Samantha and Kristen have done to make this possible and what you'll get to see today. They don't like to always take credit, but without these two ladies and all the extra hours that they've put in the evenings and the weekends to get this stood up today, it wouldn't be possible. And they've also done an excellent job fighting and pushing the envelope as we've worked with our vendor to get different tools and enhancements made for the Clearinghouse so it can meet the needs of our community. Several times we're heard, well, we've never thought of that before, but I think we might be able to do it. So thank these ladies when you have the opportunity, because they really did push it to get the great product that we have today. Next slide, Sam. Starting off, we gathered input from all the regional R3 committees. So if you remember back in the fall or the winter months when your individual committees met, as part of the state report this year, we had some questions regarding the Clearinghouse. And there's really two big themes that came forward across all 4 regions. That was the need for a combined angling, boating, hunting, and shooting sports Clearinghouse. So having that one-stop shop, people didn't want to have to go to multiple websites to search for or find these assets or have multiple clearinghouses. And the other big factor is it must be easy to use and have a robust search capabilities. That way folks would be more likely to utilize the system and have a more positive experience when they're navigating. So we didn't just throw a dart out there and end up with what we got. We put a lot of extensive research in, and I couldn't thank this team enough from all the extra work that they've done. We went out and looked and spent a good solid month looking at all the existing clearinghouse platforms are out there and starting to put our list together of what types of functions and features and assets that we like to see or would be beneficial to our community. Next slide, please. We then stepped out a spreadsheet that was broke down into phases. We knew that we couldn't do it all right away, so we wanted to come out with our minimum viable product, which is what you'll see today. So phase one, what did we need to get out there to get some resources in front of our community and provide that good, robust search capabilities that'll allow folks to utilize the system. So we took time to develop a request for information. So the committee worked on developing this, and then Samantha and Kristen implemented it. And we ended up talking to several of the vendors that you see on the list there. So we kind of looked at a combination of what would be like a contractor that would help us build something from scratch to meet our needs. We looked at some additional or existing dams or data asset management systems that were out there. So we kind of looked at both approaches and came up with what would work best for the community. Next slide, please. We came down to two of the digital asset management solutions. That's what we identified that would be best to meet our needs. We looked at both Libris and Binder. Both had several benefits as we narrowed down our decision. Several of our partners, not only NGOs and industry, use these platforms, but several state agencies also were using these platforms to manage their assets. The API capabilities, or being able to embed code, was a feature that we were really interested in. That way our partners, state agencies, could take elements of the clearinghouse and actually house that back on your own website. And then you could drive folks to the full clearinghouse to be able to see all the assets. So we thought that this could be a great benefit for partners and agencies to be able to manage assets and get more stuff into the clearinghouse. Looking at the single sign-on, one of the big benefits, can we go back one slide, sorry, of the system for some of the users would be having a single sign-on. What's great about the way we ended up standing up our final product is it's going to be an open asset bank. So the majority of you that are going to use the system won't have to log in at all. You'll be able to jump right on, search, review, download, and then even upload your own assets. The auto tagging or artificial intelligence tagging. So it goes through and picks tags automatically for you based on the metadata or the information that's behind the asset that we're uploading. And then indexing. Indexing was going to help us meet the needs of what the community pointed out as one of their top two things, having that robust search capabilities. So what indexing will do for us is even if we miss tagging an asset, the indexing will go out and actually will be able to go through an entire document. So if we had a case study up there or a research document, if that word showed up anywhere in that document, and even if it wasn't tagged, it's still going to return that result. So it kind of made it foolproof for us. So even if we missed anything, if you're using the robust search capabilities, you're going to be able to find those assets that you're looking for. Next slide, please. The product that we ended up with and that we're going to showcase with you guys today is through Binder. Currently, we're participating in weekly calls. So we have them for over a 12-week period of time, started right after the 4th of July and will run to the end of September. So the good news is we'll be able to get a lot of feedback from you guys today and over the next few weeks before we have our final product in place. We've started working on the back end a lot, which is the taxonomy, deciding what filters we're going to use, some of the tagging options and permissions, and how we're going to come about uploading our initial assets. We've collaborated with our other IWG committee chairs to capture some of their existing resources that their teams have identified. The ones you've heard about today, the Clearinghouse will have all those resources in it when we get ready to roll it out. Next slide, please. So one thing that came apparent real quickly, and like I mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of assets already out there. This community, the partners, the state agencies, industry, NGOs have done a lot of great work on R3 over the past decade or more. So we wanted to come up with a way that we could easily step down getting these initial assets uploaded. So we've decided to take it by topic. So the phase that we're going to start with shortly after the forum concludes is working on getting the marketing retention pieces, the mentoring, and the partnership stuff collected and uploaded into the system. And then in October, we're going to move into the next phase. And then we're also going to be developing a website that'll complement this, that will have a description about each of the topic areas and give you kind of some common definitions and look and feel of what types of resources you can find in these areas. So the website will kind of serve as kind of your guide to using the system, and it'll link back to the Clearinghouse so you can kind of jump back and forth. That way we're hopefully providing folks with enough information and resources to navigate the system easily. Next slide, please. So next steps for our committee. We're going to develop a Clearinghouse definitions document. As we began uploading assets into the system, we definitely realized that the way that the filters work and stuff, there could be interpreted different ways. So we want to give folks a clear definition of what the different filters mean so that the assets can be uploaded properly, because that's only going to improve everybody's experience as they use the system going forward. We're going to be rolling out that implementation calendar that we briefly showed you. We believe that we'll be able to get all the initial assets and the great products that the IWG has been working on, and a lot of the multi-state grant products that are coming out of the 2020 grant round, all in the system before we meet in 2021 in May in Oklahoma for our next, hopefully in-person R3 symposium. So we got a lot of work over the next several months, but we will be getting some usable products out there each month for you. And so stay tuned to the council when they send out their updates and do their coffee talks and stuff, because we're going to be featuring those different subject areas like I mentioned. Another challenge for this group is coming up with a state report standardization. So the folks that have been going to the regional committee meetings have seen a template that most of us have been using for the last several years. We're looking for a way so that we can automate that. So not only can we pull those assets right into the Clearinghouse, but also so we're not having to duplicate efforts. We know a lot of the national partners go to multiple meetings. Some of the states overlap and going to multiple regions. So if we can create one platform or mechanism to collect this information, it could be beneficial. And then it'll have some reporting capabilities so that we could tease out just the Western states, or we could tease out all 50 states for just the fishing and boating assets for our BFF. So be on the outlook for that tool coming out down the road. And then the last charge for our Clearinghouse committee, once we get phase one up and running so that you guys can begin using the Clearinghouse, is to start looking at the research committee makeup. So there's been a huge need and drive to come up with a national research team. This will definitely be a great asset, especially now that PR Mod has came into play and several folks will be applying for future grants. So having this committee comprised of all the key partners, key state agency folks, HD folks, industry, whatnot, we can really start identifying and prioritizing the research needs that are out there and can work more collaboratively together to achieve what's needed. So we're going to start working on kind of what that committee may look like. So stay tuned, as we'll definitely be reaching out for some input as we move towards that process. Next slide. I think it's now turning over to Kristen to give you a quick run through of what the Clearinghouse is looking like.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan, for that background and for all the hard work you've put into this. This is definitely where all of the products are coming together and joining forces to kind of just be the R3 powerhouse. So I wanted to give you a quick demo today, as this is open and usable. I know some of you are asking about it, and I did put a link to the R3 Professionals Guide in the chat so that you guys can find the links to these products, at least the ones that are out and ready to be used, like the mentoring tool in the Clearinghouse. So Samantha, if you don't mind scrolling down just a touch so we can focus on the uploader tool. So if you'll notice, Samantha isn't logged in as anybody, and that's really important. So when you go to this page, anybody can upload. What that will do is it'll ask you to set your filters, and then it will send it to us in the background for approval. So it's not like anybody can willy-nilly upload documents or whatever that don't have anything to do with R3. Everything is being screened. And that's another reason why that calendar and the rollout is so important, is so we don't get 2,000 documents in 1 month while everybody's super excited about it and have to approve all that at once. That said, if you are excited to use it, we're excited for you to use it. So go ahead and upload things that you have and think are really important to be in there upfront and first. And that tool is really easy. You just click upload, it brings up your files, you choose the file, and you select the filters you want. So you guys can have fun playing with that. But for now, I also want to show you this really cool feature that's in the top left side called Partner Collections. So this is made for organizations to kind of house all of their crucial R3 documents. Now, there is kind of a caveat that you do need to have permission from your organization to upload documents to this place because it is public. However, we will be assigning some passwords and usernames for some more background stuff where you can set up privacy. If you're interested in that, just let us know. Those are probably mostly going to go to the state agencies and NGOs that we're already working with. But the cool thing about this is, Samantha, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the Iowa resources package. Yep, that one. So Megan has gone in here and uploaded a bunch of examples of presentations and documents and ads and all of these kinds of things that you might search for as examples for your own use. And so no matter what you're looking for, like Megan said, we have this really cool thing called enriched text search, where even if you type a word that isn't a tag, as long as it's represented in a PDF or a Word document, the search feature will find it. So Samantha, let's try searching angling. So she's typing up there in the search bar, and it does give you a preview within this folder of all of the things that have the word angling associated with them, whether in text or as a tag. You can view them larger, or you can select from that pop-out list. And we think this is going to be a real time saver. So if you know that you're looking for like marketing tactics or the mentoring tool or any of those things, you can just come here, type it right in the box, and hopefully find whatever you're looking for. I also want to point out, Samantha, if you'll go over to R3 topics. So we have each of the major topics that we identified kind of lined out here. And every time we tag something or assign it to an R3 topic, those products will automatically go into these folders. So if you are trying to just brush up on your knowledge about diversity and inclusion, you could just click on that file and everything we have in the database about diversity and inclusion would come up for you to review. The other thing I want to point out, Samantha, if you'll go back home, we have this awesome section called Quick Links, and it's right above the Uploader tool. And so what I have linked right now is the council website, the council YouTube. So we're not putting full videos in here as that would take up a whole lot of space. But what we can do is link out to our YouTube channel where all our videos already live. And this is going to save us a bunch of time and space. We also have the mentoring self-assessment here. So if you're reviewing mentoring tools and you're like, oh man, where is that assessment? I wish I could go and take it. It's right here in the database. And the marketing stuff is linked here too. And that actually goes to a separate website with pop-out drop-down boxes where you can review all the materials in a digestible way. So the utility of this thing is just incredible, and we are super excited to roll it out. We know all of you are really excited to use it. We hope that you'll all use it. This is probably our biggest project since rolling out the R3 community. So we hope that it'll kind of explode and flourish like the R3 community did. We're now at almost 3,000 members in the community. So if all those people just uploaded one asset, we would have 3,000 assets in here, and that would just be amazing. So that is your demo of the Clearinghouse. Again, you can find a link to this and to the mentoring tool and descriptions of everything that all of our chairs have talked about today in the Professional's Guide. And Samantha, if you want to come back up on the screen with me, we can answer a couple of questions.
Here we go.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
So we have a couple of questions here. The first one is, will the mentor tool expand in the future to provide additional guiding resources as they are developed? And the answer to that is yes, hopefully. That tool is located in Question Pro, and it's very easily editable. So if we find that something is not relevant anymore or something is of more importance, we can always go back and edit those.
Fantastic. I'll take the next one, Kristen.
Okay.
Jason Cool offers, these are all fantastic. Thank you. Question, how did you get your agency director to buy in, including possible change in org structure? Follow up, to what extent have these recommendations been discussed or approved at AFWA with state directors? So I'll approach that from chairing the org culture subwork group, as well as our approach with working with AFWA. First of all, strategically, people invited to work on the National R3 Implementation Work Group represent the chairs of the regional subcommittees or regional committees of AFWA, including NEAFWA, WAFWA, MAFWA, and CFWA, regional associations specifically. That was done strategically to bring in the conversations, ensure that we had communication across all regions. We also have worked very closely with AFWA and making sure we're presenting at all of the angling and boating and hunting and shooting participation committees, and ensuring that we have representation from all of the partners that are represented on those committees as well. As Dave Chander listed in the chat, AFWA on the angling and boating side, with their director's leadership, listed 5 key things that needed to be done on the angling and boating side for R3 efforts. Number 5 of that document was a clearinghouse. Realizing that we were working towards the same goal, we teamed up with RBFF and ASA and the angling and boating committees and hunting and target shooting committees to have one place with one resource of documents so that we wouldn't have multiple efforts going on. We worked very strategically with our partners over at RBFF, including Steph and Dave, and we're really excited to bring this together to fruition. So that's how I tackled that. I think that part of the question about how did you get your org culture change and your agencies to buy in is more for a group conversation. So I'll leave that to the chat for people to use.
Awesome, thanks. And I will take this one from Gordon Batchelor. He asked, will the Clearinghouse contain an archive of photos that could be downloaded and used by partners to showcase various aspects of R3? Absolutely. That is a huge part of what we're looking to do. We want those stock photos. We want your agency photos, anything you can provide for people to use in ads. And as far as archiving goes, and I know this isn't exactly what you meant by archive, but if your organization or something has, like say a new logo that you want to roll out and you want to take the old one down, but you don't necessarily want to delete it because there's some historical reference there. There's an archive feature where we can archive that asset so it won't be readily viewable when you search, but it's still in the database.
Perfect, good answer. The Clearinghouse will be a great resource. Will there be blanket use for these resources, or what kind of use restrictions may there be on the documents? So I'm going to answer this one, Kristen, and how about you follow up? Okay. First of all, there will be a prompt to ensure that people have permission to share the resources. Some of our members of the IWG have made a great share that the R3 coordinator might want to share documents, but they probably want to touch base with their leadership to ensure that they're putting the best information out on behalf of their agency. So we'll have a question to say, have you made sure that you can share these resources? Second, we do have a privacy policy about what you're sharing that we're writing up, and you'll find that on the bottom tab. And then you will also be able to, asset by asset, read the permission. So if someone submits something and there's a qualm or a condition about using that material, they'll be able to ask permission to download those resources. So there's different cases for each asset, but those are the things we've taken into consideration so far. Kristen, do you have anything to add?
Nope, you hit them all. That's perfect. To wrap up this session, I did want to announce the winner of our federal ammunition backpack giveaway. And that is going to be Miss Colleen Payne. So Colleen, if you would email Sawyer I'll put his email address in the box, and claim your prize. So thanks everybody for being here. We know you're excited. We're excited. And we hope you use the resources to the fullest extent. That's what they're for you. So thanks for being here, and we will swap over to the next session, which will begin at 1:15.
Thank you for your time, guys.